Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So, welcome to our weekly PWA community call. So, thanks again for everybody who's attending, and those of us who watch the recording offline, which is great. So, we got an agenda, action packed as usual. Lars is going to kick things off here in just a minute, and share some of the work he's been doing on extensions in VS Code. And so he's also looking at some options also with other IDEs. And so really looking for ways to improve the developer experience. And so really looking for some feedback on that one, and really want to see him show off what he's been working on in this past time here in the past week or two. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on that one, make that a discussion to the degree we can. Then we're going to switch gears and show some of the work from Rovanth on some of the sample backends. So we have the ability to kind of swap those out using the some scaffolding techniques. And so we got a video we're gonna walk through there. And then time permitting, at the end, we'll do a traditional roundtable, kind of ask me anything if there are any questions, etc. And we'll go through a couple data points on PWA Studio. I want to kind of bring again more and more of that into these weeklies, just for us to understand the pulse of the project and where we're going, and if there's any questions. And so that's what we've got for today. And so again, hope everybody is healthy and well. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lars, who's going to walk us through some of his recent work.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's share my screen. So should see my screen with a Chrome browser and VS Code.
Not, we see just the edge of it coming over. We just see that you are sharing your screen from Blue Jeans at the moment.
Oh, okay, then I have the same bug again. I need to share the different screen to get the right one. Hey, there we are. So,
There we go.
okay, yeah. So what I built is a PWA Studio extension for VS Code, and currently it supports a set of live templates or snippets. And if you go down in the repository, you see which snippets I already allowing or what I already implementing. And in this demo, I will shortly showing you how it works or how you can add your own VS Code templates really easily. And also, I'm looking forward to get feedback on snippets, what you need, which IDEs we should support for VS Code, because we as developer usually a little bit lazy and don't want to write boilerplate code every time. So if you check out the repository from GitHub, you see there is a snippets folder and a JavaScript.json, and in the body section you see what it will generate or what the VS Code will generate. If I go now to my components and create a new directory or something like that. No. So like contact me. So and then I add a new file. I don't know. Oh, I don't create a folder. I create a file. Okay. Let's do it something like that. And now I can use PWA. I prefix everything with PWA, and you can also use PWAC. And this is I use minus there, and then you can using shortcuts like this, and then you already getting something like this, and then we only need to create the CSS file there, and maybe one idea what I have is something like here and create your own PWA Studio component, and then you only need to give it a name, and then it generates the contact file, the main file, and the CSS file for you. But this is a little bit more work, and I don't know how many people will use it or how many people use currently PWA Studio. And so I think we can open for discussion there.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I know a lot of the folks on our team use code primarily, and so what again, let's make this kind of a discussion. What areas does this hit? What are some areas that you're hoping to see? How might you use this? How could we make this basically make developing with PWA Studio easier? So, what are your thoughts?
I think it looks good. I mean, the live templates or the snippet stuff is something I've done for Magento PHP in PHP Storm a long time ago as well. So I find that workflow works well for me on the back end side. So I think the same flow on the front end should be really good. I think what would be really nice to see as well is, say I'm in a venue UI component or something, and I want to override that, shortcuts there to automatically create like a Webpack alias for that component and replace it within, and then sort of duplicate it over maybe to my local source directory, just to kind of simplify that workflow. Maybe even something around like CSS modules. Maybe I want to change the CSS going into a particular component easily. Like creating some of those workflow shortcuts rather than just snippets could be kind of beneficial as well. Maybe even I think you have in local intercept. I saw Lars. You have like create a like tap a route or something. You have that in there. I think maybe. But also then looking forward into the next release, V9, where we get targetables being in a component and then creating a targetable for that component, or like scripting that. Like at this point in this component, I want to inject something where I could just have, okay, create targetable for this, something like that as well. Just to simplify workflows maybe.
Yeah, some targetables I already supporting. Yeah, for the local intercept, I'm currently not sure how I should support them. Maybe yeah, maybe I should take a look on it how a snippet can look like, or what is a common pattern. Also, if you have a common pattern, there is a website where you can very easily to generate these VS Code snippets. I can share it in the PWA chat later because I need to search it in my history. But there you can put some JavaScript in it, and then it converts to VS Code snippets very easily. Also, you can define their replacing things, what VS Code will replace by this. If you use like a PWA route and my component here. No, I'm not in a JavaScript file. Because you need to say which templates or which files for shortcuts work this shortcut, and now you get different input parameters, and you can go with tab if you use it like this. Also, you get something like that. I use app, something like that, and then I can go with my tab, and then let's say I want to have last/test or something like that. And maybe we can also do this for local intercept, and yeah, overriding makes totally sense. But only one thing there. Maybe then we need to write it down which override approach we support from, or maybe want to support from PWA Studio, or recommending to using, and then I can do it in my extension as well, because my goal is some time in the future maybe somebody from the core team can take over, like the PHP Storm extension, and we can use it in the Magento namespace to have a wider spread, something like that.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense, Lars. And yeah, I would say let's have probably a deeper discussion with the core team. So Dave, Jimmy, usual folks, to really include that recommendation on overwriting, right? And so I think we've done a lot of documentation, but like let's get really specific there, because yeah, I think that's ultimately how this will help people navigate that. So for sure. So I'll take that down. Perfect. Any other feedback for Lars before we move on? All right. Thank you so much again, Lars. Again, both your content and your contribution is greatly appreciated. We love what you're doing, and although our setup is quite not quite like Kaylin Jordan's, we certainly do our best on our weeklies here. So let's switch gears. I'm gonna share some of the work that Ravant did recently on scaffolding here, and so apologies. He's in training today, and so I'm sharing this on his behalf. And so if there's any questions, obviously we can reach out to him on what that is, and make sure that part is covered here. So give me just a second. All right. So the background on this one is we want to show the ability to pick from multiple sample backends, which if you've done a create PWA recently, you've seen that ability, and quite honestly, is one of the best ways to get started without having to worry so much about your Magento 2 backend, right? And so, but versioning, of course, is very important. So what Ravant is going to walk through here is how that works and kind of what that switch looks like based on some work that is in progress here. So I'm going to hit play here, and then if you have any questions, we can certainly pause and kind of walk through this. And again, we'll bring in Ravant if there's anything specific. So let's get started.
We don't get voice there.
Oh, you're not getting voice there? All right. Let's see if I can fix that. So give me a second. BlueJeans can be kind of picky. Yeah. All right, let me try one thing here. All right. Is that better, Lars?
No, we hear nothing, but it's
Okay.
okay. Let's see if we can guess what he want to share.
All right, I'll try to provide color commentary then, and we'll send this out to everybody afterwards. So here we're picking the instance.
Mm-hmm. But if I understand correctly, we can now using also older Magento versions with PWA Studio.
Correct. And why that's important is, of course, is because of the GraphQL coverage with each of the releases, right? So this is really useful for debugging, but also using the latest and greatest. And as what Ravant's walking through, basically is our our sandboxes that we provide for the team with these versions that he's talking through here. So for those who are less familiar, this is how this is done. And again, this really allows folks, especially if you're more React based and maybe not even have touched Magento, how to get started here with just a simple configuration change.
Yep.
And then no major changes here. This is where you would make the changes. This also creates a new target after creating a new environment. This is checking the validators, and it has an effect on the build. So that's what the logic here is. And this is just showing you the sample backends here. He's going to walk through if you don't need the sample backends here in just a minute. Right. If you don't need the sample backends, you can just remove it here.
But with this PR, is something like possible with multiple store codes and multiple backends? Like you have a DE store and EN store, and having two instances of Magento? Or it's only for like I have one backend, but I can now easily change this backend.
I think it's just the back end, but we can double check with Ravant on that one. So
Okay.
he hasn't covered it yet in the audio.
Yeah, I need to take a look on it.
Yep, I'm just saying there you'd see messages if it didn't go through. So there it is, successful build. All right, there you go. So that's just, again, just to show some of the changes we made to be able to switch out those sample backends, including the ones that we've provided. So you can see the URLs for that. And of course, you can use your own. Ideally, that's what we will be using as you start to adopt. But that, again, this is just a great way to get started, especially if you don't have to and don't want to necessarily worry about setting up the latest version of Magento, which is great. So any questions for this one? Anything we need to check in with Ravant, aside from that question from Lars on the different kind of country language types there. All right. So let's take a look at, as promised, latest look at the numbers here. So this is something we'll start to show a little bit more often. I apologize, it's a little bit high level, but we're starting to see more numbers here. We talk a lot about the launches, and we talk a lot about the adoption of PWA Studio, and this is something we often share at conferences, but probably don't talk enough about them as a team here. This is the closest team probably working to the product, and so we see a handful of new launches every week using BuiltWith. We've got a search query in there that gives us an idea of at this point we've got 58 known Magento stores built, and that's using some basic validation on our end, and it starts to sift through roughly 70 additional stores that we're seeing in development, demos, and then some duplication, right? Some of them we have some of them exist as kind of multiple countries, et cetera, and so we're not double counting that one. So we're seeing a lot of great adoption, and we're seeing a handful of these almost every week. And then, so again, thank you to everybody here, and then really to the community that continues to kind of take with this and then run with what we've got, which has been a really great story this year that we can't talk enough about. Adoption really is what we're really striving for this year, and next year, onward and upward, as we would say. So, a couple other things here. So, third-party extensions. As we continue to look towards a world where Marketplace, the Magento Marketplace will support this. We're aware of about 20 known third-party extensions. We've seen a couple good ones. We talked to a partner earlier this week that used the Mega Menu extension that seemed to work pretty well for a recent launch, which is great. And so there's a handful out there, but ultimately we want to see some consistency here and start to support additional feature functionality beyond just some of the content improvements. Eventually, we're going to come around to payments and, of course, bundled extensions internally. And so right now, these are third-party, but we'll continue to consolidate these, and that extensibility work that we've done was a big part of that. In addition to that, so we've got a couple of the key metrics. So stars in GitHub, some people follow those closely, and so we continue to make good progress there. The community members in our channel, actually, to me, is a really, really big one. So we're well over 2,000 there. That's right up there with some of the biggest, if not biggest, projects across Magento and even Adobe. And then, of course, the contributors and the maintainers, Lars, of course, being here. Jordan had a conflict today, and so we've, none of this would happen without the community here. And so I can't thank you enough. I spend time every day really just thankful for what we've done to date. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but I think sometimes it's important to take a pause and see and think about what we've done around this next generation storefront for Magento. So anyways, we'll use this as a basis and kind of track some progress here, talk about maybe some recent launches. I know that Jordan shared that the Eleganza just did a refresh and upgraded with PWA Studio 8, which is great. And we're seeing some other signs and some other launches that we're expecting in the next couple of weeks. Interesting fact, if anybody's tracking, again, this is just built with data. There's a bit of a competition going. So we've got some known stores using PWA Studio by country. You see this tail off fairly quickly, though, as you see kind of get through and beyond Canada there. So US right now has 14, Netherlands with 9, tied with the UK. And then we're seeing, some interesting concepts across the board. So again, as we see these, and again with built with, we can start to understand the types of extensions and the type of work that's happening in addition to what we provide out of the box with Venya. So more to come on that one. But again, we'll spend a little bit of time of this. I know we do a lot of demos, but we want to kind of talk a little bit about the progress and the work here, but then also come back to grooming, which is kind of where we started about 2 years ago. So before this call started, we were just talking to Chris a little bit about some of the multi-store work that's getting ready to be kicked off. And so I think as we shape some of these more, I would say, complex features of Magento, bringing them into the PWA world that we've created, we want to make sure we get your feedback as part of that. And so look for more of that as part of the agenda in the weeks to come. So with that, any questions about the data or just the adoption in general? So I just want to take a pause for that.
Of the 58 stores built, do you have a list of them? Is that something accessible?
It's on built with. I can send you a link to it to take a look at it for sure.
Awesome, thanks.
Yep. Yeah, we're careful not to broadcast too many of them, only because we don't have permission on that one. But if it's built with, I think again anybody can take a look at it. So that's the kind of the thinking there. But happy to send the link. It's basically coined under PWA Studio, so as a tag for Magento sites. Good. And then, so switching gears, so community backlog, just a quick review here. Had a good session with Lars and Jordan earlier this week. Some of the things that will be happening here. So one, looks like Martin had picked up Mega Menu, so looking to accelerate that, which is great. If you haven't seen this yet, we've got some great UX work that Scott finished out recently. And so as we've talked about extensions here, this is really something we want to carry over into just general desktop support here. And so this one's been picked up, and so we're hopefully this will make some progress here that we'll be able to accelerate as we work on key functionality right now. One of which is just to finish out my account, as everybody probably has seen and known and has tracked. multi-store, and then product types. Those are kind of the big ones. And then in addition to that, we're doing quite a bit of optimization on some of the V6 Google Lighthouse work that's being done today. And so that's kind of where our current focus is, kind of between now and the end of the year. And then we've got a lot of work ahead of us. I know I've seen some interest on things like product recommendations, and so Misha Kotov, the product manager on that one, is said basically that's coming out first half of next year. We've seen some really interesting kind of early development on that one, and so we're starting to see all this come together, and so much of this will be coming from other teams as well, which is great. That's what we're hoping for. So those are really the big topics for this week. Again, we covered the code, the VS Code demo from Lars. So thank you so much for that. We've got Ravant's demo. I'll send the audio version of that afterwards. So happy to share that, but that'll be landing very soon. And then again, we want to bring a little bit more kind of the focus on the mission of what we're doing and kind of the next turn into 2021, thinking more about grooming some of these key pieces of functionality. And then making sure we understand kind of the mission, adoption, et cetera. And so kind of beyond the events and just making this almost a working group, if anything else. And so with that, any other questions or any other comments before we wrap it up?
I threw a question in the chat. I have to jump. Maybe I'll follow up in Slack. I've got to jump to another meeting, sorry. But just regarding the current status of Storybook, Is that still supported? Is it going to be rolled out for all components?
Yeah. And so the short answer is that's in progress. I wish we could work faster on it. We've done some initial concepting on that, and that helps solve a few issues. But right now it's in development. It is in our backlog, but we're going to be working on product types, multi-store, those others a bit first. And so it is coming. Maybe an opportunity also for contribution. So let's talk a little bit offline about that. But that's something we'd like to do for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. All right. Anything else? All right, then. Well, that wraps up for this week. Just a quick administrative notes. We're going to be away for the next 2 weeks, and so next Friday is our Adobe day off. So we've got every third Friday off for those who are following, and the following week in the U.S. is Thanksgiving. And so that said, we will be around if there's any questions. We'll probably post bits and pieces because it'll be a bit of a break between now and then. Of course, if you have any questions, we're always there to help. And so please let us know where we can help, where we can do more. And as always, thank you again for all of your hard work, all of your support in continuing to drive this forward. So have a great rest of your day, your evening, your afternoon. Happy Friday the 13th. And as I think Andrew once said, make sure you hit subscribe and maybe even tell a friend on this one. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks again. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.